Hi, I'm Milla and welcome to Milla's gaming video. Today is going to be very special because if you've not seen the title, I picked up one of these, a Steam Deck from Valve in 2024. So now we're going to talk about why I got one and what it means for me in my game collecting and my gaming life going forward. There's a few facets to this. I'm going to talk about my reasons for getting a deck and then touch on how I'm finding it and then finally move on to what this means for my game collecting and gaming life. There's only one small facet of my life. So first big reason is accessibility. I've generally always found it difficult to play games on PC, so having a portable PC has kind of always made sense for me, but it was only recently that I finally took the plunge and got one for this and other reasons. I have played on PC before, especially recently. I've been playing through some backlog VNs on PC that have come to Steam, but not consoles because, well, not everything's going to come to consoles. I gave up on it because it just takes too long. Of course, there are some exceptions, but that's not guaranteed. But thanks to the Switch, and to some extent Steam's restrictive policies on VNs, more of them are going to eventually come over. But the best of both worlds, and it's really cool. It also opens up Western AAA games for me, because one of the issues that I've had on consoles is because I mostly played on the Vita and the Switch for HD gaming the past several years, we're often used to shitty ports. Because what these companies like to do, these developers, they don't do what they should do and develop for the least capable consoles, ensure that's optimized well, and then up-port it to the more powerful stuff. No, instead they do it the other way around. So yeah, the PS4 and 5 versions look good, and so does PC, but the Switch version, it looks like shite. It was even worse during the Vita era because the Vita versions were primarily made for Japan, and if they were localized for the West, they were often quite niche. And companies largely got away with this because it was a Vita, it's niche. From Japanese gamers, because of the differing lifestyle there, it was only really handhelds that was their only option to play it, so they got the handheld versions. But in the West, it's very different, and is why so many of these ports have come over and are still utterly shite at this point. Like, it is somewhat different now than back then, not just because the Switch is bigger, because the transition to this gen, or I say current gen, that's with the PS5 and series has been so slow that a lot of these Japanese developers, and the West as well, have made games for PS4 and they run well, and then by extension the Switch. Whereas now we're at a point where the developers are finally starting to drop PS4 and Xbox Series, when now the Switch versions are now starting to look like shite. So I don't really want to play these terrible ports. I largely don't have any Western AAA games in my Switch collection because these ports are just... I don't want to keep going through to check if these ports are good, assuming they're even all on the cartridge, which, fun fact, a lot of them are also not on the cartridge, which is a whole other thing regarding preservation, which I made a video about that, by the way. And also I'm looking forward to digging into these games on the Steam Deck, where I don't have to worry about buying them incomplete either, on physical games, and just get them all together. And also games that I want to play, like Baldur's Gate 3, which came out last year for PC and has been a tremendous success. I want to play it, but I don't have hardware for it. And although it might come to Switch 2, it's been rumoured thanks to a Nintendo employee being listed in the credits for the game. It might not happen, so I'm going to cross that bridge when it gets there. But if I decide to play it in the meantime, it'll be on PC. Another aspect is emulation. So because of accessibility and my need to play on a console screen, I'm now finally able to dig into these older titles on the PSP, PS1, PS2, Sega Saturn, PS1. I said that once already, but I'll check out another PS1 title. SNES as well, that's another one I didn't talk about, because there's so much stuff that has not been remastered and will likely never be remastered, especially obscure titles that you need to access only via fan translation, which is another thing as well. As someone who has dabbled in fan translations on both consoles and the Steam Deck at this point, I vastly prefer the Steam Deck. It's so much easier to get them on there, whereas with consoles, if you lose it and it's corrupt, you've got to hack it all again, and it's a bit of a chore. Although I do like it, I will just probably prefer the Steam Deck going forward and other things. I'm going into how I'm finding it already, and I've not even gotten to it yet, so yeah, I have that section coming up. In terms of accessibility, as someone who needs like quality of life features, turn rewind, save states, better looking visuals that makes it easier to tell things apart from each other, which is more difficult with the older titles, and of course, fast forward for battles as well, which is going to be cool, because even with official releases, there's no guarantee these quality of life features will be added, so having the ability to play these games with these features via emulation is really awesome. And also, this is less so much related to older games, but rhythm titles. Having a deck means I can now play rhythm games, install some rhythm games on there and just play them on the deck, which I haven't picked up any on Steam yet because, again, I just mainly start to consoles, but I'm going to get them on Steam and stuff it with stuff to play. And I love rhythm games, so it's better than just getting it digital on the Switch because it's a Switch and I'd rather not have a chop and change a cartridge constantly. Another reason that I wanted to get one is more practical related to the channel. I have been making retrospectives. I have been talking about visual novels and PC titles, and having a deck means I can play them and cover them as well. I did a poll like a couple of days ago at the time of recording this because I wanted to decide which help. We'd been planning my next retrospective, but I couldn't decide, and people were like, oh, do Extra Untold, and well, I'm doing Extra Untold. And it was easy to do that and play it on there, then play on a hacked 3DS. And although it's a bit fiddly to play a DS and 3DS game on emulators on PC, it still works, and I can still play around with it and play games and experience masterpieces that are otherwise too expensive or inaccessible. And over a bit of time, I could really broaden out my gaming experiences to older gens as well as time goes on, because I do plan to use this a lot going forward. Moving on to life circumstances, which without going into too much details because I have a right to privacy, I'm going to talk a bit about why I wanted to get one as well related to gaming, because I want to travel a lot more in the next few years, and it's difficult to do that if you have a physical console because you're dependent on just one ecosystem, and especially if you get an expensive console, if you steal it, you're fucked. And while the deck is expensive, PC gaming is still easier to get a replacement for if it's nicked, whereas the console's harder to find, especially if you have physical games that then, for whatever reason, go out of print and are not available. So it makes more sense to me to get something that I can play PC games on, and also delegate this Steam Deck as a gaming device and for my PC and laptop and other technology to use exclusively for work. And work, Milla's Game Room, non-Milla's Game Room. Yes, I do stuff outside of Milla's Game Room. I might have said it before, but we all have other stuff to do outside of gaming. And just produce content that way. It makes so much sense to do that and ensures I can be more productive when I'm working and have more space to put clips on and other stuff, because not having clips on the computer is a bit of a problem when you've got games that you've got to delete instead, which is just a hassle. And the reason why Steam is actually pretty cool. As I've kind of dabbled on in my sustainability video and sustainable game collecting, I also want to appreciate more what I have rather than what I don't. So having a deck, yes, it's brand new, but I'm able to appreciate games and start to put experiences together by having that. And then if there's anything I really like, then I can get a physical copy. It does tie into gaming and sustainability, which I've talked about elsewhere, because we need to be more sustainable. And for me, narrowing my gaming library down to just one or two core platforms going forward, I feel is the best option. And so far it's going pretty well. And it brings me on to the how am I finding it so far section, which I actually talk about things properly. So as I kind of already said, I really like it so far, and I can see it becoming my main console. There are mostly pros I've got to it, but there are a couple of cons as well. First is modding and accessibility potential. Accessibility I've largely talked about, but modding as well. Even outside of FanTLs, modding games, it's easier to do it on PC than consoles. Obviously there are exceptions, like Mario Kart custom tracks, I can only really play that on consoles rather than an emulator, although they're both pretty cool. Or CDGP, I would need a Wii U to plug in and use, but I can use it on the computer as well, just not online. They do have these piracy protection measures, which I support. There's already a vibrant community on the Steam Deck as well. Found you can just find resources and just dig into it. The machine was practically made to be modded, and I really like that. Although obviously I can't officially say that. SteamOS was easy to use once I worked out what to do, even just patching games and getting the directory sorted in the desktop mode of the deck before moving back to the gaming one. For fan translations and official stuff, it has been really cool. There's already, of course, a massive library of games, which is a positive. So many games I have on Steam and not on Steam, which I've not played, I can now play. And one thing I want to do eventually is to get a dock, so when I'm around on the move, etc., if I want to plug it into the TV, I can plug it in on the TV, and so it can look really cool on there. The final thing also comes with looks, and it's that bloody OLED screen. That OLED screen is beautiful. The last time I had an OLED screen on a games console was my OG Vita, which is also on the shelf down here. And the reason I moved up to the LCD was Well, one, blue, two, it was easy to use because of the charging socket being a universal micro USB. And I do miss the OLED for the Vita. It is beautiful. Like, once you look at an OLED screen, it's hard to go back. And I think when I moved on from the Vita OLED to the Switch and my newer Vita model, I kind of forgot about that. Like, Switch OLED came out, which was meant to be the Switch Pro, but thanks to the still ongoing panoramic, Nintendo cancelled that. It was publicly leaked out, but that was the case. So we got the Switch 2, or the Switch 2 will probably have an OLED or LCD screen. Well, it will have a screen, hopefully OLED, probably LCD, but hopefully OLED, because it's a Switch and the Switch is awesome, and OLED screens are better. There are a few cons as well I want to mention. The first one is it is quite heavy. Like, even compared to the Switch, it is much heavier than I thought it'd be. It's still nice and light. As it's the OLED model, it is lighter than the launch model, and I do like it. But it is quite heavy for a handheld. And it's not the most portable, but that's kind of what makes it cool, that you can really have a more core gaming experience on the go in a way that the Switch really kickstarted. And if you still want to, go back and play the truly portable games. Also, a case of not everything works with it, because it is a game PC. It still has weird issues of compatibility where some games just won't work on it, whereas others might, and it's a bit of a gamble. There is community support for this, so you can see what works and what doesn't, but most games I've played so far, or tried to play on it, worked fine, ranging from visual novels right the way through to emulated games. It is overall a really nice device, and I'm looking forward to seeing the potential it has with video games. So what does this mean for me going forward when it comes to collecting content for my shelves, for my experiences, and more on Milla's Game Room? Well, as I touched on a bit, I'm being a bit more of a sustainable collector, so that's one reason why having a deck to assimilate my stuff onto one or two systems, for me, is the way forward. It is a nice device, and I won't take it out as much than the Switch, because the Switch is a bit cheaper to replace if it gets nicked. But I hope it doesn't, even though it's the UK. This country is a failing state by Western standards, so it's quite possible someone will steal it out of desperation. So the deck will largely be at home for now, but when I do finally travel more, I will take it with me, and I'll be able to access anything. In terms of physical games, I will still get physical games, but I just won't get as many for the foreseeable future. Like, I have a few things on order, but aside from those, I will not be getting much more stuff for a while, because it is just, I've got lots of older stuff to play first, and I really want to make more memories of these older titles as well as content for the channel. In terms of other consoles, let's be honest, console exclusives outside of Nintendo at this point are dead. And while this is a good thing for customers and gamers who just want to play games wherever they want, if you're selling hardware, it's actually quite bad, because people have no incentive to buy your stuff anymore. Microsoft have largely already accepted this and embraced it more with the Xbox Game Pass. Sony are also doing the same thing, but it's kind of more difficult for PS5 owners and the die-hard fanboys to accept that. And it's really, even then, there's still some PS5 games that haven't come to consoles or Steam yet. The writing is on the wall for consoles outside of Nintendo. The exclusives are dead. And physical games is kind of the main reason why it's still have a PS5 at this point, or a series, and there will definitely be a physical market for that stuff. Even putting aside how environmentally wasteful a lot of this software and hardware is, there's no point in me getting this stuff when I'm just not going to play it much, or it's just, I don't want to get excited for these big budget games that turn out to be disappointing as well. And if there's anything I really want, I can just get it on Steam Deck or on the Switch 2 when that finally comes out. Because yes, I have interest in the Switch 2. I do want to get a Switch 2 as well. I don't know exactly when I will, but I do want to get one. And when I have the Steam Deck and the Switch 2, that is basically going to be me gaming-wise completely sorted for the next several years. And I'm not kidding, because now I've got a PC, a gaming PC, well, I've got a dock, I'm done, I'm sorted. I don't need to upgrade shit anymore. I don't need to spend hundreds of pounds on consoles every few years, which, if you collect consoles, is what you've got to do. And while in the past it's had some value, it just doesn't really have that value anymore. Obviously, I'm still going to have older titles, I'm still going to be picking up older games too, as and when, not so much for the foreseeable future, aside from Switch, but I will still be getting them every now and then, because There are still some great games that will either play badly on emulators, especially for the DS and the Wii, or will just I love, and I want to have a physical representation of it, and not just memories or a retrospective video, which, yeah, I'm really looking forward as well to finally like curate into the true quality versus quantity mindset of a sustained like game collector that cares about experiences and enjoying my hobby and enjoy making content online about video games and getting some money from it as well as a nice bonus, because that is also extremely cool and all the more reason. And getting a Steam Deck is an investment in my life, my channel, my hobby, and one of my biggest passions in a way that makes me happy, and that's why I got Steam Deck in 2024. I know a lot of people who I've interacted with online also have a Steam Deck and also liked it for very similar reasons. Well, not so much the content creation stuff, but everything else. If you are one of those people, please let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Do you have a Steam Deck? Do you enjoy playing on the Steam Deck? Any recommendations for what I should do on the Steam Deck? When I've got around to really fully checking it out a bit more, I will make an update video. They're easy to make, and maybe a proper review if you really want to see it, because this is so far more of a first impressions as well, aside from the findings. In the findings section, it's basically, here's what things so far. There's not a proper review, but if you want to see a proper review, let me know, I'm happy to make one. Also, please like, comment, subscribe. If you can afford to do so, please consider becoming a channel member as well, and watch you obviously. Hey, thank you so much. Have a lovely day. Bye bye.